Today I want to talk about mistakes to avoid when setting up your IT systems. We onboard clients quite often that have been through the startup phase and they've done a bit of DIY tech to get up and running. Inevitably when they've done this, there's a lot of mistakes to unpick, and so often it's really frustrating and really time consuming for our techs to remediate that. So let's get off on the right foot and get into it. First, let's quickly decide on our hardware if we're going to go down the Apple or the Microsoft Windows route, and then if we're going to use Microsoft 365. So I've whipped up a little flowchart to help us make those decisions, and you can see here, first of all, Microsoft or Apple. If we choose Apple, then we need to rethink our life decisions here and re-choose and go Microsoft. But if we've made the correct decision, we can go on down and we can see a similar pattern here, and hopefully we're going to make the correct decision and again choose Microsoft 365, and then we can carry on and choose what license we want. Of course, I'm just joking, both Google and Apple are totally great products. It's just that I come from a Microsoft background. Most of our clients are in the Microsoft world, so we're going to come at it today from that angle. Mistake number one, buying Windows Home to save a few dollars. You go down to the computer shop and you're looking around, and Windows Home's obviously a bit cheaper than Windows Pro, so you go with that just so you can get up and get started, right? No, don't do that. Windows Home is missing some core features that we need, and it's in the name. Windows Home is for home users, Windows Pro is for business. Let's jump over to Microsoft's almost useless comparison table. It looks like here that you get BitLocker drive encryption on Windows Pro and everything else is the same. So that's absolutely not true. So let's just bin off Microsoft's documentation here. There's quite a lot of features you get on Windows Pro that you don't get on Home, but for the purposes of our discussion, and it will become more clear as we look at the other mistakes, the main thing that we need from Pro is that we can join it to Active Directory, which is the old way of doing things, or we can join it to Entra ID for our cloud identity provider. And in simple terms, it's really just a central way for us to manage our users and their logons, their devices. And there's a product called Intune, which we'll look at a little bit later, which we can use to manage the devices and the security and compliance policies on there. And the key here is that we want to start as we're meant to go on, so we can scale up our business in a secure and consistent way. If you have made that mistake to go with Windows Home, there is a way that you can upgrade to Windows Pro later, and there's a few different ways to do that, but it's a bit of a pain in the butt to actually upgrade. And there's an extra caveat with it. When you do want to reset the device, maybe you want to hand it on to a new user, or maybe it's just misbehaving, so you want to reinstall everything, the Windows Home key that you originally bought is embedded onto the chip. So the installation process detects Windows Home and you have to do the upgraded process again. Mistake number two is buying the wrong license. Microsoft have a tendency to make their licensing really overcomplicated and difficult to understand. So let's dive in and see if we can make the right decision to get our business off the ground. So I've just jumped here to the Microsoft business licenses, which are targeted at small businesses under 300 users. I've just ignored the enterprise licensing because they're really expensive and it's not really what we're discussing today in terms of getting our business up and off the ground for a reasonable cost. So the first decision you're probably going to make is between Business Basic and Business Standard. And for most businesses, for your core user set, it's a fairly easy decision because you do want the desktop versions of these applications here, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook, particularly Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, because the web versions of the applications are a little bit frustrating to use and sometimes missing functionality. The ribbon's a bit crammed, so usually you'll jump straight into Business Standard. And this is probably what we see get picked the most, but I think that's the mistake here, and that you really want to buy Business Premium, and I'll try and explain why in as simpler terms as I can. As I said, Microsoft sort of say things here like enhanced cyber threat protection against antivirus and phishing attacks. And what does that really mean? For the purpose of a startup founder or DIY technician here, a lot of the stuff you perhaps won't configure. So let's focus maybe on the stuff that is easy to configure, or just by having the license it gets turned on out of the box. So this enhanced cyber threat protection is talking about Microsoft Defender, which is an enterprise grade antivirus and gets up there in the top right Gartner quadrant as one of the market leaders. And having that included, or part of this $15 a month discrepancy between the two licenses, I think is really attractive. It's more than just an antivirus, it's an enterprise grade security product. And I think that's really the point that I need to drive home here, is that the Business Premium license, I'll just jump into this PDF that shows the features in real detail. You can see on the far right the standard and the premium. When I scroll down and see the features that are only in premium, it's really all of these security products. So just by having that enterprise antivirus, it means that when you go into the computer shop and they try and sell you some piece of crap, Norton, McAfee, whatever antivirus, that does more to slow down your machine than it does to actually protect you from viruses, you can say no to that upgrade. And if I just have a quick look at what the prices of these antiviruses are, to give you an idea, seem to range from about 50 to 100. This is New Zealand dollars, so convert that to your own currency. And that already closes the gap by about a third or maybe 2/3 of that license cost discrepancy. There's so many more things you get packed into the Business Premium license that I'd love to talk about, but just to keep things simple, there's only two features that I really want to call out today, and that's this advanced identity and access management feature. And what that is basically talking about is something called conditional access. So when you log into a portal and you get challenged with multi-factor authentication and things like that, we can make that user workflow nicer and not challenged for MFA if certain other criteria are met. Let's say the user's coming from a certain location or geography, or they're coming from a device that's known to be secure and compliant. And on the flip side, if someone's trying to log in from somewhere that we know our users wouldn't be, or a region of the world that we believe to be malicious, then we can also block those logins, making our environment more secure. These controls are not that difficult to set up. Of course, they're not set up out the box. So if you do want to see a separate video on just some basic conditional access policies, then let me know in the comments below and I'll see if I can make that for you. And the other feature that I wanted to talk about is, I think they've got a typo here, or maybe I'm just misreading it, but it says enterprise grade device endpoint protection, which there's kind of a duplicate of the one before it. I think that's meant to say management. So we've got this product called Intune that allows us to manage the security and compliance policies on both our laptops and workstations, but also our mobile devices and tablets. And it has a couple of other benefits as well than just being able to roll out these policies at scale. It also means that we can create an out-of-the-box auto build. It's called autopilot experience. So when we have new users join the business, we can pretty much just give them a laptop and have them sign in, and the laptop will set itself all up more or less automatically. And I think that's a really nice feature. You can get that set up again with some fairly light touch policies. So if you want to see a video on how to get that set up for your business, then let me know in the comments on that as well. So mistake number 3 is not having any kind of backup at all. Now they're up and running with our business premium license, we get SharePoint and Microsoft OneDrive built in. OneDrive is similar to Dropbox or Google Drive, and we can store our files in the cloud so we can access from anywhere we want. But what I want to jump into is just turning on the automation of this backup. Let's dive in and have a look. I'm just on a Windows machine here, which has nothing on it really except OneDrive. And if I just right click in the system tray, you can see here there's this OneDrive icon. It might be sometimes under this arrow, but if I right click on the OneDrive icon and just go to settings, the first thing that comes up is sync and backup. So if I go to manage backup, give it a second to have a little scan of your machine and figure out what's going on. There we go. And I just want to move the rocker switch across on all of these. So documents, pictures, and desktop. I want to automatically back those up. So as I'm working and I store things in my documents folder structure hierarchy, everything will automatically get backed up to OneDrive. And it has a couple of benefits. One, obviously it's backed up somewhere else if I lose my laptop. And secondly, if I do need a new laptop, then I can just log on to the other one and all my files will come across. So there we go, that's saved. That's all I wanted to show you. Let's jump into the next one. So mistake number 4 is buying your Microsoft 365 license with your domain. Now I know this problem exists on GoDaddy and possibly it exists on some others as well. I'll try and explain as easily as I can why not to do it, but basically what's happening in the background is there's something called federation. So your Microsoft tenant gets federated or associated with your GoDaddy tenant and login, and it just has some limitations on the administration side of things, and it's really a pain in the ass to unpick. I'll jump into a little demo and show you what you're trying to avoid. So here we are at the GoDaddy website, and if I'm going to buy a domain, so let's say I'm going to buy givish.it for my new IT company, that Givish IT about your business, and see if that's available. And it is. So let's say we're going to buy that, and I'll just click through here. And this is what I'm talking about. It's like the classic, did you also want to buy this type page? And you're thinking these are quite good prices for Microsoft 365 and some good discounts. So you just add that on because you need it at the time to save you some time. So please don't do that. Just hit no professional email and continue, and then go ahead and finish buying and setting up your domain. What I want you to do is, if I jump back onto the page we had earlier, and I think I'm going to provide this link in the show notes, looking at the Microsoft 365 business plans, directly on here you can start a free trial. So get a free month of your business premium from there, follow that through. It will ask you for some card details and a business email account, but just take your tenant directly with Microsoft rather than bundled in from some other provider. Mistake number 5 is having no form of password management. It's so common these days to see people using the same password in multiple portals, or having really shit passwords like welcome123, or what is awful as an IT pro, and you log into someone's machine and you see they're storing password on a note-taking app like Notepad or OneNote or Evernote or something like that. So the easiest way to manage these passwords is just to use a password manager. There's lots of them out there. There's like Keeper or LastPass. My personal favorite is Bitwarden. So I just want to show you really how cheap you can get started on Bitwarden. If you're just getting started and it's just you, just go ahead and download and set up the free version of Bitwarden. If you've got a bigger team and you need to share passwords, then you can get one of the business plans from as low as $4. This is US dollars, so $4 a user per month. It's really not that much money, and it's so important to have your passwords managed properly. There's so many features of this product and all the password managers. It's kind of outside the scope of this video. The point is here is to avoid the mistake of not managing your passwords appropriately. If you do want to see another video about probably Bitwarden, seeing as that's the one that I use, let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can make that video. Mistake number 6 is under-speccing your laptops. And I say laptops because I generally recommend laptops over workstations these days. It gives you a bit more flexibility with people wanting to work from home or move around the building into meeting rooms and such. So generally I look at getting laptops and docking stations to afford that more flexible way of working these days. To that end, what kind of hardware should we be looking for? And I think that 2024 or moving into 2025, we should be buying at least an Intel i7. So if you're going down to the computer shop and they're asking what you're looking for, look for at least an i7 or the AMD Ryzen 7. In terms of memory, I think you need at least 16 these days. And then in terms of hard drive, what I've always said is really important is to get an SSD drive. Very hard hard to nowadays buy a standard hard drive, so I think nearly all computers come with SSD drives and probably a minimum of 512 gigabytes. Now, like I said, I'd take those as minimums. In my opinion, there's really no over-speccing laptops. If you spend a bit more on making your staff, and let's face it, labor is the most expensive cost in most businesses, if they're going to be 20 to 30% more productive for the sake of $3, $4, maybe $1,000, then I think it's an absolute no-brainer of an investment. Mistake number 7 is not signing into your browsers. It sounds like a small one, but it's similar to having a backup really. You can see here in Edge, I'm signed in with my work account, and that actually gives me more than just backing up my settings and my bookmarks and such, but it also connects with Microsoft Copilot and a number of other features. And then also in Google, you can see here I'm signed in with my Google account. And just like having the known folder moves in OneDrive, it does mean that if I lose my machine and I need to sign in somewhere else, or I just have multiple machines, all those settings comes with me, and it makes my workflow a lot nicer. And certainly from an IT protecting your settings perspective, it's a lot better. Hopefully that helps you DIY your own IT or get your business up and running. Until next time, have a good one.